Hi guys, it's Hazel. Welcome to my channel. This is day 32 of the 100-day project. And in between the last video and this one, I cleaned my desktop repeatedly with my mat with baby wipes. I tried to get rid of the things I was done with and pull out something else that I wanted to use. And somewhere along the way, as ideas for these days were occurring to me, I would gather up stuff and put them in really safe places. Sometimes so safe that I couldn't find them again myself. Somewhere in this place, I have a quilt section, I guess, that I bought at a thrift store that was composed of, probably 6 or 8. I don't know, 6 or 8 of these kinds of triangles. I love the fabric. Now, unfortunately, it is sort of directional because of the way the lavender is tied with that sisal. Anyway, I thought, well, I'm clearly not going to make a quilt out of it with those few pieces, so why don't I do something else? So what I did at some point was, again, because I'm working with an oddball shape like this, I thought, well, the only sensible thing would be to make like corner pockets or tuck spots. So I've never, math was never really my strong suit in school. So it was actually kind of pathetic watching me try to figure out angles and try to maximize the amount of fabric, get something interesting on it. So to my taste, this is more interesting than this is, but I'm not about to waste it either. And you end up with a piece like this. On most of our cutting mats, or on many of our cutting mats, we have those excuse me, maybe I can reach this and show you. We have something like this that shows these 90-degree angles and 45-degree angles and so on. I can't say that actually helped me any. So this is some heavyweight junk mail that I cut up. So what I'm going to try to do here today is to carry on making at least one more of these, covering at least one more of these with fabric, and then maybe decorating some stuff. Now I pre-gathered some materials for that, again, to save some time. Now, as attractive as this print is, it's not that easy to find things that go with it. So I ended up going through some of my little folder with some, jelly plate projects. This was this is a coffee filter. And if you watched my cutting your own stamps project early on in this 100-day project, you know that I would have tried out one of the stamps I made on this filter paper. So, of course, that's a good match. Again, I'm trying really hard to be conscious of where I am on in this frame. So I'm thinking that could probably be used. I found this stamp kicking around. It's not exactly that purple, but it's close. And then I looked through my dies. My die cuts, not my dies. And if you saw my Temu unboxing, you'll know that I bought several dies and I sort of product tested them before I did my video. So, of course, they were all in a jumble. So then I took the time to sort them sort of by color. And that, of course, is not all of them. So some of these dark greens I think would work. And what I was really looking for were these because it picks up in the lighter purple that's there. So I have a bunch of those set aside here as well. So with those few things, I think we should begin. If somebody has a brilliant idea for sorting these fragile things, I'd be game to hear them. Anyway, I will put this kind of out of harm's way for the time being. There must be, like I had originally had them in one of those plastic or poly, snap closure envelopes, which is good because it's see-through and you think, oh yeah, I've got dies, why don't I use them? However, these little frilly-dilly things get they get tangled up, and so that's why I thought, well, it's more useful if I at least sort them by color, because that's what drives a lot of what I do. Okay, so you can see that I didn't bother ironing out these seams because what is the point? They provide a nice clean edge for what I want to do anyway. So again, I'm not going to fight the math on this. I'm not going to fight the angle of these of this triangle. So, and I'm not going to bother cutting new ones of these because I have these already done. So I'm just trying to sort of put my piece of junk mail in there, maximize as much of to me the flowers are the more interesting than the green, to try to maximize the pattern that I'm going to get. I don't know. I suppose I could put it up here. Oh, if I put it up here, I have less trimming. Maybe I should do that and less waste. Hey, look at that. Just changed horses in midstream. Okay, so for this, I should have this guy lying down here. That's the Fabri-Tac. Yeah, let's be different and use this end of it. So while that glue is finding its way to the nozzle, what I can do is, I should use bigger scissors. What I can do is sort of roughly trim this. Let's maybe not work against my right-handedness here. Okay, I'll worry about that corner when I get there. I'm clearly going to make it bigger than the piece I'm covering. But I don't want to just willy-nilly cut this either, because I want the piece that I'm left with to be something kind of half decent usable too. So that's what I'm left with, and I'll add it to my other scrap. So might be time to put a little more glue in this bottle. Okay, not very straight there. So I'm going to cut that little wing off, and I'm going to reduce the amount that is going to, and I think what I'll do too is sort of reduce some of the bulk at the corner, like, we tend to do with paper. It just makes for neater corners. And to be honest, once this thing is glued down, I'm going to have a little bulk there. Once this thing is glued down to a journal page, it is, none of that. The neatness of the corner becomes kind of less important. I'll trim that when I get to it. Let's go where we know we can go for sure. Let's do this longest side first. Now, if you were a whiz kid in math, you probably think it's ludicrous that I couldn't figure out these angles and so on. But every time there was something, even now, I guess, every time I encounter something that I can't really do well, I make excuses for. No, it's more like self-acceptance. It was just like when my son was playing hockey. At one point, we had a pie sale as a fundraiser. Well, I can't bake a pie to save my life, but I can craft a good sentence. I can do crafts. I'm good in emergencies. You know, there are so many other skills that I have. Why would I beat up myself or waste any more life energy trying to do things that I don't care about? So feel free to use that thought process the next time you or someone else is trying to make you feel inadequate for whatever reason. Because that is, can I be blunt, BS. Everyone has, okay, I'm not going to fight that creased thing there, so I'm going to do that, and I'll worry about what happens here soon. I think, you know, another thing that I could do, and maybe I still should, is not make this so damn pointed. Let's make that a bit easier there. You know, it was like when I was a newlywed, we originally lived in Edmonton because, Alberta, because I was going to college. My husband had a job there, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, he gets the call of the land, and we move, you know, kind of to our, for lack of a better word, our hometown. I'm just trying to reduce some of this bulk here without kind of having a blue corner showing. Whoops. So we had this little fixer-upper house in town. I mean, really tiny. And it had a garden plot. And of course, there were neighbors on every side. And like a good young wife, I thought, good Ukrainian young wife, I thought, oh, I must have a garden. So I planned a garden, but I also always worked. And I had, you know, my first kid at that point. Well, I guess 4 years after we got married. But anyway, I had this kid. I always worked. And yes, I understand the benefits of gardening and growing your own food and all that. But my goodness, that was not my first choice of how to spend, you know, spare time. So here, I'm surrounded by these little old Ukrainian widows whose kids are long gone, whose husbands have died. They lived for their gardens, and I used to kind of snarkily, say to myself, these women are out there plucking those weeds before they fully emerge from the ground. And I, of course, was not. And I felt bad. But eventually, and it doesn't happen overnight, it certainly didn't happen. How old would I have been by then? Maybe I was 23 when I had Greg. But early 20s. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is it takes a while to, it takes a while and self-awareness to figure out what it is that we are good at, what we like doing, where we choose to spend our time and money and energy. And I think it's a female affliction more so for sure than any, lay that guy down, than any, I don't think men allow themselves, I don't think men suffer this affliction as much as women do, where we allow other people to make us feel bad and inadequate. So, did those women talk about me? I have no idea. Nobody called the weed inspector as far as I know. Eventually, you just have to sort of stand your own ground and decide either this isn't worth the effort, because who the hell am I trying to impress anyway? I think I should cut a little more out of there. Who am I trying to impress anyway? And more importantly, why? Are these, and I'm not dissing anybody. There are some women, and men too probably, who have turned gardening, food, what would you call it? Preservation? Not preservation, but, like canning and freezing and filling their freezers and the freezers of their children with all this. I mean, these are all wonderful qualities. I also know, and I don't know if it's as true now, but back in the day, there were all these people that had these gigantic gardens, usually farm women, not so much the women in town, had these gigantic gardens. They would buy the seed, they would work beside, in their garden plot, they would weed, they would water, they would fertilizer, they would powder their cabbage for cutworms and do all. Should I do one more? How are we doing for time? I could probably do one more if I have the right size scrap here. Anyway, they would put all that money, time, and blood, sweat, and tears into it. And then at August, September, when it's time to, enjoy the fruits of your labor, they would be stuck with what to do. They would either complain because the kids came out from the city, filled their coolers and whatever, filled their freezers with the fruits of mother's blood, sweat, and tears, and hadn't been there for the seeding, the weeding, the watering, any of those things. See, I can make this work if I trim it. So can I just try to do this freehand? Or should I, let's see, which is the better way to do this? Maybe if I shorten it here, I'm more likely to be straight. Anyway, so these women would complain about ungrateful children, or they would faux brag about how much they had given to the kids. And, or they were, again, is it bragging or is it complaining about how they had had to feed, whatever surplus to, the chickens or the hogs or whatever, because they had so much, and how there was carryover from, the previous season or seasons, things that were, kind of getting a little old in the freezer, maybe a little freezer burnt. I'm just roughly kind of trying to do this, talk and walk at the same time. Okay. This is becoming a very tiny talk, but that's okay. Not much overlap here. I might have to let me trim this until it totally disappears right before your very eyes. Excuse me. So, and this, of course, was back, at least in rural Alberta, long before food banks had ever been invented. Oh, I should also point out that the challenge with this fabric, because of the shape of it, there's no way that a person could reliably tear it, because it could go who knows which way because it had been cut the way it had been cut. Okay, so I think just to move this along, what I'll do is I will glue down the sides, I'm sure off, and then, sorry about the frog in my throat, too much talking, then worry about that edge. Anyway, food banks hadn't been yet a need for food banks. They hadn't been invented. And even to this day, there is no food bank in this community I live near. There is one at the county level that people can access when they need it. And of course, like everywhere else in, I'm sure, North America, food banks are, the saving grace for a lot of families who are suffering and struggling. Anyway, so, and we had a business, so a lot of contact with, the public and with some of these women. And so I remember saying, well, there's this seniors lodge in town. Could you not donate some there? Like especially root vegetables and things like that are going to keep well and for months, really with proper storage. Oh my goodness. Now that's probably too much. Probably not my best corner in the world. Oh, did you notice? I didn't glue any of the actual body of the fabric down. I don't know that it's necessary, to be honest, but I guess if a person wanted some added assurance, they could. I'm just having enough trouble talking and gluing, it seems. It feels like I need to put a little dab there just to... Anyway, and sometimes public health rules are kind of goofy too. I know that they exist to protect people, but to be honest, they don't always make a great deal of sense. Like when more farm families had dairy cows and were milking, or not even dairy farmers, but every small farmer had cows, pigs, chickens, and you basically were, you grew your own food and you were self-sufficient. So when it's sort of become a dying art, but if you had these women that were, milking these cows and had all this milk, yes, there was a market to sell cream, but what do you do with all that milk? Day after day after day, twice a day, all this milk. So, the hardworking people who maybe had grown up in the Depression and were certainly, much like us and these paper stuff that we do, didn't want to waste anything. Maybe we're making what they used to call pin money. There is no regular paycheck with farming. It's kind of feast or famine. A lot of money going out and income coming in at the time of harvest or when you sell your cattle or whatever. Anyway, so a lot of women sold eggs or cream or whatever. Oh, the example I was trying to give was making cottage cheese. Well, there became a time, and I don't want to guess at the date, but where, okay, farmers markets became a thing. So people would, do this baking at home. They'd make cottage cheese, they'd bring it to the market, they'd sell it, which was a huge boon for the people who had some money. Maybe they were career women and had, number one, no cow, no desire or skill to make cheese, for instance, which would be one of the main ingredients, say if you were making pâté or pierogies. So wasn't it great to be able to buy this? But then, of course, public health regulations kick in. Well, how do we know what conditions, whether this person knows anything about food safety? How do we know how clean the areas in which this stuff is being, made? So that became a bit of, there was a clamping down of rules. I'm not sure, to be honest, right now what the status of things like cottage cheese are, but I do know that with the public health inspector, you can apply, and through, I don't know if it's an on-site visit or if it's just certification that you've taken the food safe course or whatever. There is a process where you can get permission from the health inspector to sell your stuff at markets and farmers markets and so on. Anyway, how did I get off on that tangent? Okay, back to crafting. Okay, so this is how these would look. Let's get rid of this fabric that we no longer... Oh, I should show you in my prototype journal. Let's just randomly pick a page. Okay, now I probably would never do this here because this paper's from the 30s. But you can see that the idea being that you'd glue on two sides and have an area to stick, tags or whatever papers into. Well, wouldn't put it on a fold like that, but let's say, so on a left-facing page, that's how that could look. Actually, no, the angle would be wrong. What would stop a person from doing it in an upper corner like so? Because I always think that when we're putting stuff into journals, the natural inclination is to do it at the bottom half of the page. So I think it really bulks up this area, and maybe sometimes just for something different, a person should put something more at the top. Especially these do have a little bit of heft to them. So those are some of the possible end uses. Anyway, let's see what we can use to decorate here. As I said, I've got these filters, I've got that stamp, I've got some of this gel paper. This was probably done on those, not probably authentic deli paper, because you have to buy like 10,000 sheets or something if you go to the wholesale or, one of those places. I think this is probably the stuff that they put between patties, like beef patties. So I should probably just start ripping and gluing. So I got my glue stick handy. I've got these cute butterflies, which I think will find their way, because they do make sense in the context of these flowers. If I wanted, like on this one that is so green, I could use some of the more, geometric patterns. because chances are all of these would be used in the same project eventually. So, you know, you don't want to, so it would make sense, even if there isn't any purple. Got a few other things here, like well, okay, that's far too big. Those things are all too, is this too big? Yes, it is. Okay, let's get rid of the things that are too big. Okay, and I do, somewhere I have scraps in this color. That's what made me go down the rabbit hole of looking for. Originally I was thinking, oh, I could just punch out a design. I'm thinking, well, why would I want to do that when I've already done it? Okay, let's get to work here. There's something kind of nice about, let's just quickly rip some stuff up. Let's tear some things up, people. I could have that. Let me pay attention to what you're seeing. You know, I could have that cut straight edge butt up against there. I could do that. I could slap a stamp down and I'm in business. So, enough talk. Let's just do it. Oh, one of these days I will be showing and telling. I scored a wonderful wallpaper sample book that I can't quite establish the age. I'm thinking maybe the 60s. But the thing that is different about this one, and I've already deconstructed it, it was nice and wide. This whole book was on wall murals. So the entire landscape version image, was I using this one? Yeah, I think this was the one. The entire landscape, whoops, wrong end, image is off the whole picture. So there's everything from sort of a botanic type thing, Bahamas, like, you know, resort beachy type scenario, you know, meadow versions. There's one that is sort of almost just what do I want to say? Just geometric, sort of kind of a mid-century modern maybe type design. Was it this one or was it this one? It's probably this one. Art Glitter Glue to the rescue. Anyway, what I did was, and there had been some water damage to the corner of the book. Some pages, a lot of pages were not at all affected. Some were affected, and of course, some were affected more than others were affected. So basically, I got them all out of the book. Yesterday I tore off the edge, and how much I had to tear off, again, depended on the particular page and how, oh brother, that's a big clump there. How much I had to tear off depended on how much damage there was. I took the bare minimum off. And my thought, the reason I bought it with you guys in mind, is that, you know, again, with a minimum of folds, probably 2 folds, 1 horizontal, 1 vertical, I would be able to sell pages out of this book. And because they're about, I think, close to 15 inches tall, and I don't know, 22 or so wide. Excuse me. There would be some possibilities. And of course, I can't look at any piece of paper these days without seeing, oh, journal cover. Oh, journal cover. Oh, journal cover. Anyway, so depending on the pattern, a person could cut it the long way and probably end up with two lengths, like two pieces of paper that would make two different journal covers. Now, I could probably, if there's time, I don't want to, maybe I'll do that later probably. I'll probably add a tag of some sort, or we'll see how the rest of this goes. Maybe I'll have time to do that. But maybe we should add some of this. Now, this will be introducing white. That, you know, may or may not be a plus here. I could sort of fussy tear. I guess a person shouldn't be too afraid of white because it does add a certain freshness to things, and it also opens the door to adding other white elements. Anyway, I'll just kind of quickly fussy tear this out and try it out because it's kind of impossible to tell until you do, you know, actually lay the thing down. Now that is probably far too big. Again, here there's no purple whatsoever. So maybe let's just tear that down a bit so we can do something like that. Maybe we can put something like this underneath. Again, it doesn't, this is not, it's not rocket science, and it shouldn't take so much time that it takes on a life of its own. I maybe don't have quite enough elements here, although I do have a couple scraps of piano paper that would work on these pieces that have this little sisal thing around the lavender stems. Sorry, I am, this is the second video I'm taping today, so my voice, excuse me, will be getting a workout. Oh, the reason I started talking about the wallpaper is because then I tore up all the big sheets. So this is like a quarter of a sheet of the photos showing the murals in, you know, in a room setting. So that's why. It's not that I'm totally out to lunch and just randomly start talking about stuff. I usually have a thought process that I'm trying to, there's usually a thought process involved, though not always. Maybe I'm, excuse me, maybe I'm putting pieces on that are a little too big, end up covering up too much of the, oh, and I can also have this circle, this disc come off the edge. That's always a good look. You know, so I could do something like that. It's probably going to need another element of some sort. It's funny, but I feel like maybe I need to take this a bit closer to the design. Reduce the amount of white. You know, it's crazy stuff like this that we do. Why am I including you in that? Maybe you don't do crazy stuff. I do crazy stuff. It's almost like, and you know, I could do, if I use another one of these stamped images, it might be simpler just to fussy cut it and leave that tiny little, tiny little white border. Anyway, that's probably more manageable in size. You know, I could do something like that, have that butt off the edge there. Okay, let's start gluing, enough yapping. Again, using art glitter glue because of the quick hold and the fact that some of these things are thicker, and I'm gluing it to fabric, which is, you know, a little more obviously absorbent than paper would be. And I think I was going to use that and that. And maybe a sip of water will. Oh, and I have these dark green leaves here too. Maybe that would ground that a bit. And I'm sure I've got some smaller ones too. I have several green dyes, but maybe if I put this along here, it'll seem more organic. See, I've got other greens, but a lot of them, mind you, that's not too bad, I guess. That's kind of bright. I have some teeny tiny ones, but are they in the wrong color? I haven't left the, Elvis and I haven't left the building. I'm just trying to pick up these little guys. Okay. So far I've got a circle. Are you duly impressed? Even that's kind of cute. I've got a little boo-boo here. I think that's the only one I have like that in that color. That's too solid. Yeah. Okay, let us use this and something, oh my goodness, something will have to be, oh, there's a tear there too. I'm gonna have to glue this very carefully. I think this is one of those that I was struggling with. I have to say that after I did that Temu video, it attracted a lot of attention, and because I clearly struggled with some of the dyes, because see, let me just say, I never got on the scrapbooking card making bandwagon, so I'm late to the game in terms of you know, die cutting. And for the longest time, I resisted buying one. And, oh, did you see what just happened? Let's hope some of that glue lands where it's needed. Luckily, this will dry clear. Oh, I think that's pretty darn cool. And over that missing frond, I can, you know, glue something. It could be a word, a number. I think even my smallest butterfly is too big, and it wouldn't be shown. It wouldn't show up there anyway. Anyway, I resisted buying the Big Shot, and then finally broke down and did it and bought a few dies, and well, the rest is history. However, never really learned all those hacks and tricks about making it easier. So I have to say a lot of viewers were really gracious in offering some tips and some advice. Let's see if I can quickly find. Nothing is ever that quick around here. I have one of those little 5 drawer, these little plastic caddies. No rhyme or reason to what is in any drawer, but the whole darn thing is labels. See, that could work, although perhaps it's a hair too big. So I've got, you know, Tracy Fox, I've got Artie Mae's freebies, I've even thrown things like this in, some digitals, some definitions, like, but anyway, I think because of the green, I'd like to, this one's just on paper. Could do that, I guess. Although this one does pick up on that. But it covers too much, maybe. You know, this, well, I mean, you guys, you're cut from the same cloth, so you're not going to be surprised that I'm going to take the time to cut that greener, that outer green edge, to make the overall tag smaller so it covers up less of the leaf frond. We still have the inner green, but now you can see the stem and so on. I'd have to have it closer to the edge so you don't notice that that's missing. Okie dokie. Oh, I could have put some, oh, well, the next one. I was going to say I could put some piano paper on there. Oh, crooked. One thing I find that I used to have, when I was younger, I used to have a very reliable eye for, honestly, that looks crooked, for straightness. Like, you know, hang a picture or whatever. Okay, to the edge of the label, 1 inch and a little bit. It's exactly the same. I guess it's the, you know, the angles and the leaf and the, anyway, it is straight, so. And I found that I'm losing some of that over time. My ruler is my friend. And I don't know if that's because of wearing progressive lenses or what the heck. What the hey. Okay. Should we, because there's the raffia, maybe try to use some of this piano paper. And do we just want to slap on a butterfly? Whoops, that one's too big. I thought the little one would be too small. Maybe I'll have to bring it down a bit. Okay, maybe we'll use a glue stick for this. In one of the videos I was telling you, I think I said the wrong thing. I called it a command strip, but it's actually a command hook. I put a command hook in the knee hole of my desk so that I could hang my heat gun nearby, because, you know, I have the thing, but I've never used it in a video because, you know, you need it within reach, you need it to be able to be plugged in, and, you know, that kind of thing. So now I sort of feel the same way about my glue gun. You know, I'd probably use a glue gun in scenarios where it makes sense. But again, it has to be nearby. It has to be plugged in. Maybe I need a leaf there instead, or something green, because the butterfly will be the focal point. Yeah, I can do that. It will give us, it'll soften that straight edge there. It will give us a pop of color. I mean, it'll tie in the greens. And it will add another layer or level of interest. Now, I don't think we want this guy's leaf. We don't want the butterfly's leaf to extend beyond the edge. He should actually be down here. So maybe I should put something else. But then that's, okay, I need another green thing here. Don't like that. I don't like the visibility of that gap there. So don't want the straight edge either. And this is how a desk gets messy. Okay, that's going to close that gap there. That's going to follow the shape of the tuck. That's going to give a place for this butterfly to land. And then I'll probably find a teeny tiny little tag that will repeat the color of the piano paper. And I might have to pull out another drawer to do that. Or here, no, that's, well, I guess that might do. At one time I did have a system here, believe it or not. Too brown. Honestly, you know, thank goodness that it's like-minded people that, excuse me, like-minded or open-minded or curious people that watch these videos, because I'm telling you, if a person with no understanding, excuse me, or appreciation for this were to tune in to this video, or any video, really, junk journal type related video, they would truly wonder, when is the next support group meeting? Because really, it's like, a lot of us, I think, are kind of anal retentive. Yeah. I like that. I think, to prove my point, I'm going to cut off these little, first of all, let's cover this up. I'm going to cut off, maybe it would be better if I was on this side. You guys could see something a little better. So anyway, I cut up all those wallpaper thingamajiggers, pages, diagrams, so that they don't take up too much space. They give me a glue surface, and they're small enough that I use one side and the other, and then hopefully discard instead of trying to make them last too long like I typically do. Again, this mauve here is a bit like, where did that come from? But maybe I shouldn't worry about that, because they are opposite each other on the color wheel, and they are going to work regardless of anything I do or don't do. I still like the idea of it repeating though, so let me add this microscopic piece of paper. Again, to prove the point about anal retentive. Let's glue that this guy down. Probably should have used art glitter glue. Oh, brother. Did I get enough around the edge? Oh, dear, dear, dear. Why? Is it an optical illusion? I should have used art glitter glue. I think some of it might have squeezed through the... So now this butterfly looks variegated. I mean, not that that's bad. That maybe is a good thing. Okay. Let's slap down that label. Check the time. And call day 30. What did I say this was? Is it day 32? Call day 32 done. Okay, again, the whole, I didn't think it would grab that quickly to fabric. Bring this down fast. Okay, maybe I'll quickly do this, because if I don't do it with you, I'm gonna have to do it without you, and I can just as easily do it with you. If you have to go, I understand, because I know that when I watch videos, sometimes I have to go. You know what? I wonder if that's a leaf or is that a feather? That could be a feather. It's kind of strange. Anyway, this is actually upside down, but I thought that I would probably be forgiven for that. I didn't use this. Okay. We've got some more of this. Did you notice how I just so ruthlessly threw that away? Didn't decide to save it. Like, miracle. This piano paper is really interesting and very appealing. But of course, it's also very fragile because of all those perforations. You know, one false move and... Boy, that's not my greatest corner ever. Maybe if I just slather on some glue like that. You know, I think I was in the thick of a story when I was trimming that and didn't do such a great job. Okay, what now? Should I use some of these? Yeah, see, I think that's a feather. What happens if I use some of these guys? Is that going to seem weird if I don't? Okay, this green is wrong. If I don't put a flower there? Let's scrap. Oh, wrong one. How did these guys... Maybe I don't have enough of them. Again, what's the problem with using another green? So what if it isn't exact? I could just do like a little randomy thing like that with all these little guys. Just too bad I don't have a second one of this darkest color. Or perhaps two feathers. And or leaves, depending on how your eyes work. Boy, I'm putting some pretty big stuff on, on the smallest. On the smallest tag. Again, I feel like I'm going to need something beigey to offset. Okay, this time let's slap down the, and I'm going to use art glitter glue. I'm going to slap down the label towards the bottom here, but I don't want to cover up all the purple. Then put these guys on. Could very deliberately cross them like so. And put a butterfly. Yeah, let's do that just because I don't think you guys brought pajamas, so you can't be here forever. Have that go that angle. Have this one go in the opposite angle. I don't want to have to trim. I'm not sure I'm happy with how I crossed those, but hey, I can disguise that by, that looks kind of dumb. Ay, ay, ay. I need something funky like this instead. I can do funky. The heck. I like these kinds of shapes. I guess I just got carried away thinking, oh, it has to be botanical because there's nowhere to grip this thing. It has to be botanical because of the flowers and the leaves and or feathers. Okay, enough is enough. Let me just assemble these guys here for a photo op. Yeah, it is odd the way this has changed color. Wonder what happened there. If I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be this one. I'll see. I might... This biggest one seems to have the least ornamentation on it. That's far too big. Yeah, I might... Well, let's just try it. Yeah, I'll probably... Does the term leave well enough alone mean anything? Apparently not. So I'll put... something like this here. Then I'll put this over it. It can cover part of that word. And then it'll look, and maybe I shouldn't be so, don't be so afraid of covering that rose. Okay, I'm doing it. For better or worse, I'm doing it. I think I'm going to do it like so. And then for this, yeah, it's too bad I didn't. I was so busy trying to be quick that I didn't. You know, I usually like to have things repeat themselves, but there's no way I can do that now. Unless, well, no. I don't think anyone is going to agonize over or think, oh my goodness, if only she would have repeated that one element. guess maybe that would be a useful reality check every so often to think, hey, this particular corner pocket is not going to end up in a museum. It's not going to be studied and analyzed and dissected 100 years from now. So just have some fun, do it, use it, move on to the next thing. And for heaven's sakes, take your own advice and stop putzing. Wonder. Let me dig out my surgical tools here. That's the disadvantage of art glitter glue. Thank goodness that's on cardstock. Oh! Paper is starting to separate. Maybe I could ruin this whole thing. Rip off the... Oh. Are you noticing the insanity here? Now I've got a lumpy bumpy thing here. Because the paper's separated. Okay, now the next thing you can expect me to say is, I don't like that this little corner extends past there. Okay, let's add some art glitter glue to first that layer. Or you know what, maybe I should, I was going to say maybe I should rip it out of there. Because now it's probably going to extend past the... And then a little dab there. Have it all squeeze out. Did that do anything at all? Other than confirm. Don't you wish I would have turned the camera off about 5 minutes ago so you wouldn't have to witness this? This annoys me also. Let's just rip some of this off. Might bug me more. For better or worse, it's gone. Okay. Crazy. Okay. This is the final result. So, if you buy, or if you have scraps of fabric, they don't have to be quilt pieces, again, because the math complications that occur. You can use them to cover some pockets, which is nothing new. I think the part that made this different, this video slightly different, is the fact that I was salvaging quilt pieces, oddball shaped quilt pieces. So, yeah. Anyway, that is my process for decorating these. Now this feels like... I better find a label or something there, have it intersect with that stamp. And truly, I am quitting right now. See you guys tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.